This year marks 70 years since the first commercial polar route flight. Polar route basically just means any flight that goes over one of the Earth's polar regions, so the North Pole or the South Pole. The first recorded instance of people flying polar routes was in 1936 and 1937. There were several Soviet aviators who had flown from Moscow to the west coast of the US. Then in 1954, SAS flew the first commercial flight over the polar route. They flew from Copenhagen to Los Angeles, making stops in Greenland and Canada on a DC-6. Other airlines introduced similar routes, and then in 1957, SAS made history again, flying Copenhagen to Tokyo with a stop in Anchorage. This was during the Cold War, so the airspace for the USSR and China and some of the other countries over there was closed. So this meant that airlines trying to get from Europe to East Asia either had to go through the Middle East or they had to take the polar route, making a stop in Anchorage. And back in the 80s, there were quite a few airlines who were doing this: British Airways, Air France, Lufthansa, KLM, Japan Airlines, SAS. The planes have just continued to get better, and they no longer need to make that stop in Anchorage in order to go these long distances. And the Cold War ended, so Russian airspace was opened. So a lot of airlines that go from Europe to East Asia were able to just go through Russia, but when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, it closed their airspace again. So flights like this one from Helsinki to Tokyo have to take the polar route once again. But there are regular polar routes that happen every single day, mostly from the Middle East to North America. So one example is Dubai to LAX on Emirates. And if you're wondering if there are any planes that fly over the South Pole, the answer is not really, no. But they do get close. There are flights from Sydney to Chile and Sydney to South Africa, and they go right by Antarctica. And on some days, they get really close.